Petite Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. Indeed, it's a pleasure being here with you in the morning time, and welcome to the televised edition of the Mid-Morning Buzz. As I've said to you, it's Tuesday, and as per usual, we normally have the folks from the Royal Grenada Police Force, but today's conversation is special among many. Again, we want to say thank you to those of you that joined us on television, on GBN's Channel 7 and Channel 11, Channel 20 if you're in cable. If you're following us on the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd or via our YouTube page or our Facebook channel, we say thank you and welcome to the Mid-Morning Buzz. This morning, I'll be entertaining two wonderful ladies from the Anti-Money Laundering Commission, and certainly we'll be learning this morning their role, their functions, who the AML Commission regulates, why, registration of regulated entities. Today we get an appreciation for that. And I have two ladies with me. They're waiting in the wing, Neisha Romaine and Sabrina Taylor. Good morning, ladies, and welcome to the program. Good morning to you, ladies. Wonderful. Good morning to you. It's indeed a pleasure having you here on the program. The Anti-Money Laundering Commission is not a department or a conversation that the average Grenadian would have on any given day. But tell us, so let's kickstart the conversation and tell us, the AML Commission, who are you? What do you do? Why were you set up? Let's start the conversation there.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, Lady Taylor. Go ahead. Yes.
And good morning to the listeners of GBN. Thank you for having us here this morning. So as you said, you're getting right into it. The AML Commission is a body mandated by law to ensure that regulated entities adhere to the anti-money laundering and terrorist financing laws to ensure compliance. The vision of the Commission is maintaining an effective national system for combating money laundering, terrorist financing, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. The mission is to provide effective risk-based supervision and direction to entities conducting relevant business and lead in the combating of money laundering, terrorist financing, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in the state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Okay,
so let's see if we can break it down and simplify it for our users, because when you throw it out like that, I can imagine my listeners and viewers are going, "What is she talking about? Terrorist organizations, money laundering? I have no idea what that is." At the end of the day, so what covers or constitute money laundering?
Okay, money laundering is, as it relates to the legislation and also recommendations that we would have received from international organizations, money laundering is the conversion of monies that were illegally obtained and putting it into the system to have it somewhat washed, and then as it goes through the system, it comes out untainted.
So it's what you refer to as dirty money.
Yes.
Okay, that's right. So for the purpose of our listeners and viewers, we talk about dirty money now. So fellas that they've earned their money through some illicit practice, whether they do up on the hand, under the counter deals, the drug trade, they selling on the black market, whatever they're doing. So that's what money laundering is about.
Yes.
So they find a way to get their dirty money onto the economic scenes and disguise it and get it into everyday business life and functions. Yes. Okay, good. Yeah. So we understand that. So that's what the AML do. But some may ask, Neisha, in Grenada, like seriously, do we have such a challenge in Little Grenada? Who even gets involved in that?
So can you repeat your question, please?
Now, I was saying, based on what Sabrina and I we were saying in terms of money laundering, it is literally dirty money. But
Yes.
I would see I can imagine the average listener or viewer is thinking, in Little Grenada, this actually happens here. It can't be possible.
Yes, money laundering here is very possible. It is very, very possible. Persons tend to think that, because Grenada is a small island, we are, we cannot get certain things. But here, money laundering, criminals do not really pick and choose as long as they can get the dirty money into the system and get it to come out clean. They can use it.
Okay, let's talk about a practical scene. So somebody, they have earned finances through illicit means. And so because we want at the end of the day, not just, we want to be able to give our listeners and viewers an appreciation as to what the subject matter is. So somebody that's involved in, let's say, they're selling ganja. Yeah, let's just keep it local. They selling their weed and the ganja and they're doing their do. And they've built up a little empire, right? So we know that they do that. Let's explain to me, ladies, exactly how that process works. How are these criminals? What do they do to ensure that all of this transaction comes up and they decide, as they say, wash the money and it comes out clean? How exactly do they facilitate that, and what do they do?
Okay. So there are 3 stages when it comes to money laundering. That are placement, integration, and then you have the separation, right? So for example, the placement happens when you acquire the money. That's the dirty money, right? And then they filter it. That's the second stage. They filter it through the system. So they send it through the financial institutions such as the banks or credit unions. And then they would do some wire transfers to different institutions, so they make it look legit. And the third statement is removing that money from the financial institutions, and then they would buy luxury vehicles, buy properties, and homes and stuff like that. That is what they would do in order to build their empire.
But what is it they have done seem to almost comes across as being an everyday practice. I work hard, and how would you be able to identify what are the telltale signs that your agency would look for so as to get a hint or determine, maybe you may suspect that this sort of activity is part of maybe some illicit trade, money laundering? What do you look for?
Okay, so the functions of the AML Commission, the principal function of the AML Commission is to implement anti-money laundering policies. So these persons, they would have probably used their illicit funds to establish a business. So they probably would have opened a business, registered it normally as everyone else would have done, and they are in the system now. So they would have used that money for establishing a legitimate business. But the funds they would have used to establish that legitimate business came from an illicit means. So the functions of the AML Commission now is to implement anti-money laundering policy. The Anti-Money Laundering Commission was established pursuant to Section 63 of the Procedure of Crime Act number 6 of 2012. So our entity is established where we have to regulate these entities. If that business that person would have opened falls under the category of a regulated entity. So once they would fall under the category of a regulated entity, then our office is responsible for regulating that entity. So
and regulation, when you say to regulate, what exactly do you do?
So in regulations now, the individual would have established the business. they would be carrying on a relevant business in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And that business could be anything from an insurance company, insurance broker, a business of buying and selling cars. They can be an attorney at law, a firm, notary publics. They can be a money remitter. They can be real estate agents. They can be accountants, accounting firms, persons operating gaming activities such as slot machines operators and non-profit organizations, churches, and things like that. So these are all relevant businesses that the office regulates. So if that person would have established a business that falls under our regulation, we would then have to examine that entity. They would have to provide us with a policy, an anti-money laundering policy and procedure. They would have to register with the AML Commission. And they would have to subject themselves to on-site and off-site examinations by the AML Commission office. So these are some of the things that we would have to do to regulated entities that fall under our mandate.
How often do you find cases where there are businesses that do not register? And if that happens, what protocol is in place to ensure that those businesses fall in line?
So in those cases, right, we have, sometimes we do a lot of public sensitization. We call wrong, just to speak with the individuals to get them to register. But in those instances where those relevant businesses, fail to register with the commission, there is something called penalties, right? So in POCA, Proceeds of Crime Act Amendment 7 of 2018, that's section 32, it speaks to the penalties for failing to register with the commission. And when an entity fails to register with the commission, they can be fined $5,000 for the failing to register with us. And each day that passes, an additional $300 would be added to that fine.
So I'm signed up with you, and so that's taken care of. I want to get a greater appreciation in what are some. You talk about regulating them on a daily basis. They have to be subjected to some of your internal auditing and all of those different things. What happens in eventuality if a registered business, for some reason, they're not measuring up to the expectations? Exactly, how do you treat that as a commission?
Okay, so we do provide help for them. We do provide guidelines as SRO 6 of 2012 to assist entities to follow the mandate on what they're supposed to do as a relevant business. And, in some instances, some entities, they may or may not, abide by those guidelines. So we do have penalties for that as well. There are additional fines, yes.
Have you had cases locally? Because everybody's interested to know, because we not every day you hear about the Anti-Money Laundering Commission. Have you had occasions locally where you found businesses that for some reason you determine they've gone on the other side of the law? And how do you treat with it in terms of, it may seem as a legitimate business operation, and somewhere down the line you've recognized, listen, there is something, as you say locally, fishy going on here. So at least our listeners and viewers, what happens? What is the protocol? Give us an appreciation for what happens.
Okay. So far, since we're here, we haven't found any businesses of that nature, right? So in the case of that, what we'll do, we will have to report to the Financial Intelligence Unit, that's the FIU, and there we would launch an investigation in order to deal with these entities in accordance with the law. Right? We would let's say we would look at the policies, we would go into the businesses, we would do a thorough investigation before we jump to any conclusion, because we could just have a suspicion, but really and truly the business could be legitimate.
You wanted to say something, Ms. Taylor?
Well, she would have covered it.
So you're saying so if we have, so locally you haven't had any occasions. So I'm assuming though, so locally we're fine. I'm assuming also, do you have a mandate that allows you to monitor businesses on the outside, persons wanting to come into Grenada to do business? Does the AML, does your ambits cover all of those? Is your reach that far?
So our mandates, yes, we are required to cover them as long as they fall within the relevant businesses that we are to regulate. So we will also cover individuals who from overseas who wants to come to Grenada to start a business. We are going to cover them as well, as long as they fall under our regulations. That's SRO 5 of 2012. As long as they are caught under that act, yes, we will be covering them.
Have you had occasions where there are businesses that does not fall under that protocol? And if so, what happens to them?
Okay, so no, we haven't had any instances at the moment, but the Commission has the authority to regulate any business that they think that can be used to launder money. So we have the power to also incorporate other businesses to ensure that they are in line, as long as we think that they may be vulnerable to money laundering and terrorist financing. We can regulate them.
As part of the day-to-day function, we're assuming that you monitor, you do a lot of surveillance, you do your interactions with the banks, and there's always been a conversation regarding, and help me to understand if that falls under your ambit. You hear concerns from the banking and industry as it relates to minimum amount of funds that can be transferred into an account to travel with, and all of those different sort of things. Is that part of your regulation that the banks are following? And if so, why?
Well, as it relates to monies that persons have to travel with, that would fall under the Customs Act. So Customs would deal with that part of it. As it relates to putting measures in place, the AML Commission does put measures in place along with the FIU, sends directives to various financial institutions as it relates to things that they would have seen, trends, typologies that they would have seen that is coming on stream, and persons should be aware of it, and that the institution itself should put stringent measures in place so that they can combat any form of money laundering that may be taking place within the institution. So we do provide directives. The Commission would also provide training as it relates to updating the financial institutions on these set trends and typologies. It is important that a financial institution is aware of what is expected of them, and then it is also important for them to implement it through their policies and procedures. They can have most institutions should have a written policy and procedure where their staff it is readily available to their staff, from the board of directors down to all the frontline staff members should be aware of all the policies and procedures as relates to anti-money laundering and terrorist financing. I think I would have covered everything.
I get the sense, Lady Romaine and Lady Taylor, that as the AML, you serve a more proactive role in an attempting to ensure that a crime isn't committed, more than waiting to catch them. So you put the checks and balances in place to ensure it doesn't happen. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. That is the actual duty, the mandate of the commission is to put things in place so that the financial institution is not caught off guard as it relates to anything that can happen within their sector. Because a bad report from a financial institution getting delisted from some international organization, or they cannot remit funds overseas, is a bad report for the country. And in that sense, we have to follow the international guidelines and try to have the institutions, local institutions here, comply with it and then implement it down to their customers and have their customers adhere to these various policies and procedures. But making it known that it is for the good of all of us, the whole country, so that the scourge of money laundering is not prevalent within Grenada, Carriacou, and Putumayo.
We're keeping our eyes on the clock. It's 21 minutes gone past the hour of 11. For those of you that's possibly just joining me, my guest this morning from the Anti-Money Laundering Commission, Neisha Romaine and Sabrina Taylor. We just about wrapping up into the conversation, but we say thanks to those of you that's possibly just joining. Sabrina, in your deliberations, you made mention of trends. What are some of those trends that's become more prominent on the market that you look for, or that allow you to become suspect that maybe, you know what, you see this? Or even for the businesses themselves, that they become at least a little bit more aware as to what's happening on the global markets?
Okay. So as relates to the internet, which is everybody uses the internet, you can find persons conducting businesses on the internet, buying and selling stuff. They are using their credit cards to conduct transactions. The financial institutions have to implement measures that can safeguard the customers from being a victim of any fraudulent crimes on the internet. That is one part of it. There's other parts where persons conduct this kind of pyramid scheme, where these persons come on and say that I can give you can make $500 in a day or $10,000 in 2 weeks, and persons are taking their hard-earned monies and putting it into these schemes, thinking that they can get rich quick. These are things that you have to put in place to the financial institutions to let persons know that these schemes are not, they are not technically real. It is not, you're not the one who's profiting from it. It is someone else who probably would have started it months ago and would have started getting persons to come on board. And when it finally gets to you, you are at the sticky end of the stick and you don't get anything. So you find that these are some of the things that you would see, and you have to cause the financial institutions to put measures in place so that persons are not caught, and that the little money that persons have do not go down the drain per se, because they do not get back anything, and it is hard to even try to start to get back anything from them. So you have to have the financial institutions put these measures in place so that their customers would not fall victim to these types of schemes. So we educate the financial institutions on various trends that international bodies may see, and they would have sent it to our office. and we write directives to these institutions to tell them, hey, be aware this is happening. Please don't let your customers fall victim to it.
So we get the sense additionally that you literally work with agencies across the region and across the world. Is one big global network where information is shared.
Yes, information is shared through the AML Commission, the FIU, and there's other agencies that send directives from time to time.
We keep hearing there's... Sorry, Neisha?
Just permit me. Just adding to what Ms. Our local SUSU, right? And this is just for locally. Persons would go into the financial institution with large sum of money, and they would say, they get this from a SUSU hand.
Okay.
But really and truly, it could just be, they collect their money from the activity and want to put it in the system and claim it is a SUSU. But what we have done is issue directives, as Ms. Taylor said, to the financial institution to treat with those issues, those matters. Yes. So I just wanted to add that for local, what happens local.
Is there a minimum, maximum amount, a threshold in terms of figures that an individual can go to a financial institution with? Or what? When does the red flag goes? When does the red flag goes off?
As it relates to persons making deposits in financial institutions, there's no maximum. Well, there's no minimum amount. It depends on the profile of the customer and the activity of the customer. If a financial institution has created a profile of a customer and they are stated to be working for $1,000 a month, and they would have been receiving that $1,000 as their salary on a monthly basis, the institution would see that. It's just comma, that's your salary. However, if the person now changes to depositing $2,000 a month, but that is in addition to their salary, the financial institution should then find out, well, where does this money come from? So the profile of that member should change to one, you have to change you have to do customer due diligence now and find out from that customer where is that money is coming from. They may have started a business. So you have to, update the customer profile, indicating that they are receiving additional funds from a legitimate source, selling either some clothing or something of that effect. If it changes to another aspect where that person has somewhat gotten involved in some illegal activity, then they have to conduct enhanced due diligence on that customer and put measures in place so that they can implement a system to verify where that funds came from. The threshold measure amount for that person it could be $500 because somebody can deposit $500 on a daily basis.
Right.
There's 30 days in a month. If you multiply that, that's a huge amount of money for someone who would have initially stated that they are just working for $1,000 a month. So you have to do these things. The institutions have to do these things, and these are things that we educate the institutions on so that they would be in compliance, they would be knowledgeable, and they have to also create a system where their customer due diligence measures is enhanced as they identify persons who are not in keeping with the initial source of funds.
And I'm assuming I've heard the term declaring your source of funds. I've heard that's where that comes into play. So they would then double check. Okay, this Joseph is making a deposit or $10,000 out of nowhere. So that's where that process comes in.
Yes. So that person, the financial institution, well, the legislation has the source of funds form. That's the guidelines. So the financial institutions have a copy of that, which emanates from the guidelines. So it is something that was implemented by law.
Okay.
So the financial institutions have to then take that. When they have noted that a customer is going beyond the expected amount of monies that they are supposedly to be depositing, they would then ask the customer, can you please fill out a source of funds?
Okay.
Can you indicate to us where that source came from? And they would have to provide supporting documentation as to where the funds would have emanated from.
So this is not the bank just gets it up in my business, up in my Kool-Aid.
No.
I always thought it was just minding my business.
Guidelines. It is in the legislation and mandated by law.
Right.
Yes.
Because my initial response is like, that ain't your business. Where I get my money from, it's my business.
No. You see, that would cause the financial institution to create a profile on the customer.
Interesting.
They would then know, okay, my customer has now started coming in with a larger sum of money, and I want to know where he's coming in with it from.
Right.
What has he been doing? Has he enhanced himself financially? Is he operating a business? So then they can then now tell the customer, you have opened a personal account with us, you have started depositing larger sums of money, so let us open a business account.
Okay.
So that would change the information that you have on the profile of the customer. So then that would cause now that customer, you can give that customer now a different type of service than a personal account.
Okay.
These are things that the legislation have mandated and causes the financial institutions to implement. And then the customer, they're asking kindly for the customers to kindly provide the information.
So this actually works both ways, ladies. One, it helps the banks to manage its own internal affairs, and it allows for ease of business, an easier ease of business for the customer.
Definitely so. So that is one of the reasons why, some persons just have to be a bit lenient with the financial institution, provide the necessary information, and that they can probably give you better service, provide you with better service. And, things would just be even greater for you at that institution.
I'm happy we're having this conversation. Unfortunately, we had to put a wrap on it, though. Before you go, you go, ladies. I want to throw this at you because I'm on this. So you the AML, and you were a branch of the FIU. So that's you're a branch of the FIU. That's correct. Or you separate and apart, or is there crossover? Who monitors who? The FAU monitors you. Explain that part for me.
Okay. So the AML Commission and the Financial Intelligence Unit are two separate bodies, right? We work alongside with each other.
You work alongside each other. Okay. Mm-hmm. You did mention SUSUs before you go. Does the operation of SUSUs and all those sort of things have any regulations under your ambit?
Pardon?
SUSUs, as we know locally. Do you guys manage or regulate that, or who has responsibility for that?
Right. What we do, we normally give directives. Right? We give directives because we notice a certain trend. That has been going on with the SUSU. So what we did, we are responsible for guiding the institution. So that's why we have the guidelines. So once we notice a certain trend, we are going to guide the institution on that trend.
But you're saying trend, and maybe I'll squeeze you in 5 minutes. I will, because I want to hear this. What is a trend? And the challenge is that SUSUs very often, in the traditional sense, they not run and operated by established entities. a group of co-workers, your nanny, your parent, a few guys in the community, in the village, they come together, and you hear some sad stories coming out of Susus.
Yes. So, yes, there are sad stories coming out from those Susus that, like, simple village Susu, co-workers Susu, right? So, what tends to happen in the institution, the financial institution, they are going to request from you, like what hand you get, what is the amount, who is the holder, and information like that to present to the financial institution to ensure that this is who you got the money from, the susu that you were in.
So you're assuming, though, that is going on the perception that I end up going by some financial institutions. But the truth is, many susus, when people get the susu hand, listen, all of us grew up on susu. When mommy get the susu, she buy the school books, the this, the that. She don't have time to go put money in no bank. But I was just asking you for the purpose of trying to appreciate, because we grew up hearing about susu, but all of a sudden now there's different trends. You hear people talking about susu, and the person operating the susu say they have to take $20 for the administration of the susu. And listen, I want my money wrong as I don't want to get no long talk with anybody. But I'm assuming that's probably a separate conversation all by itself.
Let me give you a little clarity, though, as it relates to that directives pertaining to susu. The actual what it is that the directives was done so that persons who have legitimate susus can provide information to the financial institution that they have been conducting a susu. So they can provide us now with the name of the person who has gotten hand 1, 2, 3, or 4. Right. So that when they go to the financial institution, they can state this money did legitimately come from susu. But however, the flip side of this is that persons who are conducting illegitimate businesses or illegitimate activities, they have used the word susu to go into financial institutions to say, as in the source of fund declaration forms, that, I would have received this money from a susu. So that is to cause the institution to differentiate now, or to get a further knowledge as to where this money did really come from.
Okay.
If as a legitimate person you can provide information on your susu hand, then you will. But if you don't, and you're coming in a form of you're doing that just because you want to get your illegitimate monies into the system, then you would say, I did get it from a susu, but you don't have the supporting documentation to do so. So this is a point of trying to give that differentiation.
Okay.
As relates to the persons who take the little monies from the susu, that is their operating cost.
That's a nice way of putting it. They're robbing it from me. They're stealing my money.
Yes, their operating cost.
I think, that was just the funny side of it. I think those things can be alleviated just by establishing those premises from the outset. Listen, if I'm the one responsible for managing the collection and disbursement and all of that, I will take a little $25 from once that's agreed. I think in most cases, because it isn't, and the person then finds out at the end of the day, it creates those quarrels and contentions. Anyway, ladies, we've out of time by 10 minutes, but that's not a fault on your end. I deliberately did that, so I will adjust that internally. But it was a pleasure speaking with you. I do hope that we will get the opportunity to speak with you at another place and time. Neisha Romaine and Sabrina Taylor from the Anti-Money Laundering Commission. Ladies, all the best. Have yourself a wonderful day.
You too. Take care. Have a great day.
Take care. All the best. 21 minutes on to the hour. There's another Neisha that's waiting in the wings. She's actually from the GFA, though. She knows nothing about money and money laundering or any such thing, but she can tell you about that football match that's taking place at the stadium this afternoon. Quick commercial break, and we'll be right back on the Mid-Morning Buzz.
Hey folks, you're invited to tune in to Grenada Music to the World program, hosted by Eugene Gittens on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9, Hot FM 98.5, 98.7, GBN TV, and all their social media platforms. The only totally local music program in Grenada, representing all genres of music. So it's Green's Music to the World on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBN with the music icon himself, Mr. Eugene Gittens. See you then.
Five things you need to know about self-isolation. Stay home. If you are told to self-isolate, it means staying at home, not going to work, school, or other public places, and you should not have any
Join our friends on television, have Neisha Peters from inside of the GFA. She's got some really wonderful news. There's international football, not football, it's football. The road to Gold Cup fever is on, and it's action inside of the National Stadium. Good morning, Neisha. How are you, my dear?
Good morning, Joseph. I'm good, and how are you?
I am great. How's life inside of the GFA?
Busy. Wanna come join me?
Later on. We'll do that later on. We do that later on.
No problem.
Dotting your I's, crossing the T's. Just a matter of hours.
Yeah.
Football action, football fever takes Grenada by storm.
And not just one game we have in this time. We have two international matches this time.
Oh, yeah.
We have St. Vincent here with us, and they would be taking on Cuba. You know, we extended our olive branch to St. Vincent because of the volcano and stuff. So they're using Grenada as their home ground to play Cuba in the World Cup qualifiers match today. Their game kick off at 4 p.m. this afternoon. And then from 7, we got the Spoils Boys taking on Montserrat, which will be really exciting.
That's where the thing turn up later on. But people are probably thinking, Neisha, and I guess there's a lot of questions that are probably going to be asked. Who's going to be at the stadium? Tickets, vaccines. How do I get in? If I didn't take my vaccine, what is the rules and regulations? Let's talk about that.
I know. Now, it's something people want for so long, to see fans back in the stadium, and we are happy to have them back there. However, with the whole COVID thing, there are changes and we have to adjust to new norms. So persons are welcome to the stadium at a cost of $30. That's for the 2 games, right? However, the persons that are purchasing tickets to enter the game, they must be fully vaccinated. And that means you must have your second jab, have gotten your second jab by the 25th, within the 25th of May, to consider yourself fully vaccinated. So that, and what we're doing now, we'll be using the secondary stands. That's the stands closest to the cricket stadium, coming over from the Greenbridge end. So you can purchase your ticket at the cricket booth. They usually sell tickets for cricket.
Right.
Ticket there. And just please know that all ticket sales are final. Okay.
And I'm assuming reasonably that persons will have to be able to verify and ascertain their status. So it wouldn't be a case where we come in and playing and guessing yes, no, maybe, perhaps I had it. You need to provide proof.
If it's one thing, I must say Dr. Martin on top of his game with that, because he'll be assisting us with that along with his medical team. But once you come to purchase your ticket, you must present your vaccination card. Also, the ID that you use when you went to register for the vaccine, you use this identification so that you know that you're fully vaccinated and you can get your ticket and come to. And even though you're not vaccinated and you let someone buy a ticket for you, don't think you're getting in it. Because when they check you at the ticket booth, you have a next check-in point again where they check to make sure that it's good. And before you enter the stadium, they have a third check-in point where the nurses and the doctors they check again to make sure, okay, yes, it's legit, and you can go in.
Stadium lockdown, CIA style, man. Commando style. You only making joke with that one.
FBI, Secret Service, everything.
What about persons, though? Because you and I, Neisha, know that some persons, they hear football, they get excited. There are the diehard fans that would get into the stadium, and then there are the boys that just want to hang around, drink a beer, congregate. Is that being allowed?
Well, no, we understand that, but you're in there and you want to have fun. But what we made allowance for is that persons can walk with their cooler. A cooler small enough that can stay within your seating space, So you have that allowance, but mind you, after the game, you gotta clear out. You go, as soon as you move out stadium, clear out. There's security on board the port. There's private security as well as the port brigade and the police force. They're working along with us to ensure that all protocols are adhered to and that we can clear out of the stadium and have no social gathering after that.
On the issue of social gathering,
before I continue, all other protocols are in place as well.
Right.
The advance, and there is the seating distances. You sit 2 seats apart when you're in there as well.
Oh, I was just about to ask you that because I'm thinking, listen, if we are vaccinated, we're good. We can just balance inside of there. That's not allowed?
Not very much, but we can't balance so much as yet. So, no, we have to let's play it safe still.
I was certain that fellas decide, it's a long time we play a match in the stadium. We go balance. So that's not going to happen. There is the protocols that would be adhered to, even if you have been, even if you're fully vaccinated.
Most definitely. Yes.
So don't want to make no argument about you get your jab so you could play jab in the stadium. That's not going to happen.
You can play a jab in your section.
Play your jab in your section. I like that. Stay in your section. Persons on the outside though, because we always know there's going to be the linemen. How do you treat that? Is that a no-no? The issue of vending and all of that?
It is a no-no, but as you said, there are persons who will do it, and we're going to try our best to ensure that it is not happening. I said we got a broad range of police force on board with us, and also our private securities.
Well, I thought it was a secret service. Secret Service, well, I say you are training up and Alvin up to something that nobody know about. So at least for the purpose of the general public, people should just be informed that it's a controlled environment that will be done there.
Controlled environment. No patrons are allowed at the main stand. That is talking the car park entrance. No paying patrons allowed there. That is only for the teams, match officials, and persons who are working, game match operations person, and probably the presidents and stuff like that who will come to look at it. But no paying patrons. Or paying patrons that would be at the secondary stands. That's the cricket end of the stadium where GFA old building was. You're coming across from the Greenbridge end. You get your ticket at the cricket ticket booth, and you go into that gate 6. To the main stand, to that secondary stands.
We can well appreciate, Neisha, to pull off a game of this magnitude because you have to conform to your parent company. Well, not company, your parent knowledge, FIFA's rule, regional rules, CONCACAF, the Gold Cup rules, and that's the GF is going to ensure that happens. But to pull off a game of this nature, you need a supporting cast. There's yourself, the immediate GFA, but there are other persons in the ticket booths assisting with doing different things.
Lots of volunteers.
Logistics, a lot of volunteers. Are we to assume that those volunteers, they as well would be vaccinated?
It is what is required. So we have to ensure that it is happening and that everyone who is coming there is vaccinated. We doing our temperature checks. We checking everyone who is in there. There's a list that we have. Everyone, all volunteers' names, all players' names, everyone. And mind you that the players, they're in that bubble. So there's not like they're mingling with anybody else.
Right.
Because everyone on island, all 4 teams are on island, they've been in that bubble from since day one. They've been here. All match officials, everyone.
All match
officials. Even the GFA staff and all.
It's happening this afternoon, folks. It's a double header. $30 gets you entrance into the stadium. Remind us again, Neisha, game number 1. That's the warm-up game. Who plays in game number 1? Yeah.
This is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They come up against Cuba. That is their World Cup qualifier match. St. Vincent is the home team away from home.
Right.
And then we have the Spice Boys. They come up against Montserrat, and that game's at 7 p.m. St. Vincent game, it kicks off at 4 p.m.
So it's indeed a long evening.
Very long evening.
For people not following, know that not probably abreast with it though. Give us appreciation because of the road to the Gold Cup. It's been
this is not Gold Cup.
Sorry.
This is not the World Cup qualifiers.
World Cup qualifiers. Sorry,
yeah.
World Cup qualifiers. Give persons an appreciation as to how Grenada has been doing in terms of its build-up.
Really, they've been good. They lost to El Salvador. They came back home. They won against USVI. They went back to Antigua. They lost to Antigua, and now they're back home, praying and hoping to pull off a win. But the loss against Antigua had crippled our chance, I should say, of moving forward into the second round of the World Cup qualifiers. However, we have Gold Cup, which is in July,
right?
And we want to take this win on a high, and propel out into July month into Gold Cup. As you can say, kick butt in the coming games.
Kick some butt. Listen, we're making no joke in the stadium this evening. Anybody that ain't look right, go. Listen to me, folks. Grenada's happening this evening. It's the middle of the week. Yeah, you're probably thinking, but I mean, it is what it is.
When last you've been out to socialize with some friends? This is an opportunity to socialize. Social distance, I don't know how to put it, Joseph.
To socialize with a bit of a distance.
Yeah.
A matter of fact, listen, socialize in your section, plain and simple. You get a chance to socialize in your section. The ticket booths are open from what time, Nish?
The ticket gates open at 2 o'clock.
Gates open at 2?
At 2 o'clock, yes.
And
so the ticket booths should be open by 1:30, around 2, let's say.
And all ticket sales are? Final. Don't come and give no trouble and say, well, you don't want to stay to see the second game. That's your business.
Let's go for the second game.
Huh?
And don't give somebody who is fully vaccinated to get a ticket for you if you know you're not fully vaccinated.
That's not what it works.
You will not get past Dr. Martin on his team.
What if though, Nish, before we run? So we both fully vaccinated. I've paid $30 for my ticket, but I just want to see the St. Vincent Cuba game. You want to see the second game.
It's up to you. If you want to watch one game, you'll watch one game and leave it go. But the price is $30.
So that ain't working. Okay, because I was just thinking ahead because I know people will try all kind of stories. They go buy a ticket and say, well, they don't want to watch both games, so they're gonna pay the $15 for the first game, and their partner will watch. All kind of trouble. Either way, ticket sales are final.
You know how we are.
So we did.
we in the stadium. We're in the stadium from 4 this afternoon. Well, I'm there from since what one. So
Neisha, that's where you work. To say you're going to say you're going to the stadium, it doesn't count, Neisha.
And that's the thing about it. I don't even get to see the game.
We know that. And there are some people that would probably think otherwise. They probably think Neisha gets a chance to palance on the day. Little do they know.
They only do.
There's some of us that actually know better. Now we know that today, literally, you don't even have a time to break out unnecessary sweat.
What we could do?
Do what you have to do, folks. It's for the love of the. And while we at it, before we run though, I realized that we found our new, the GFA. We found our new national anthem.
Pardon me?
Answer your phone. Somebody calling for tickets. I was just saying that the GFA. I refer to it. We found our new national anthem.
Oh yes, most definitely.
How could we not talk about that?
Don't you love it?
I mean, I like the vibe, the energy, the colors, the everything about it. It just feels Grenadian.
We totally belong.
It just feels, and I see
who are there to displace us. We belong.
And I see Barbara make the cut too. I say, what trouble that?
I know. Unfortunately, when they came, I was sick. I couldn't even keep my head up.
Okay. Well, when I see that, I say, well, look at that with Barbara Make Hollywood.
I will tell Barbara about you.
I know she's listening, and she's probably bawling, that boy Joe, leave me alone. I mean, we're just happy that, of course, something, it represents us as a people, it represents the Spice Boys, and it's all local. It's all local.
All local. And I must say hats off to the production team. It's a boss production. To the artists, hats off to you all as well. And thank you so much for such a great production of a wonderful video and a wonderful song.
Indeed.
Teddy, I'm his boss.
Teddy is boss. 5 minutes on to the hour of 12 o'clock. Remind you at the top of the hour is going to be the midday edition, production of our news and current affairs department. Neisha, all the best. Enjoy football this evening. Go get them. Yeah, give them Monster Ration about 5 goals for me. 5 goals. Just that. Just give them
extra
5.
one just for you.
One for good measure.
Yes.
One for good measure. Have you take care, my dear.
You as well.
And for those of you that is on television and getting ready to send you back to studio control, where of course you go back to your regular programming. For those of you that's on radio, the journey continues up until the top of the hour, where it's going to be the midday edition presented by Chrislina John. And of course, as you can well appreciate, it's a production of our news and current affairs department. Peace and love. JC loves you. I'm out of here. Have a great one. The midday edition.